You know what somebody recently told me about Oppenheimer is that, in fact, I've had several people say this. When the spoiler, a little bit. Once the bomb blows up, don't think you're leaving. It's another hour after the bomb goes off, and I really heard it's an hour too long.
Oh, yeah?
Well,
I've heard a lot of people say it's too long. It's a good movie, but it's too long.
I've not seen it. I'm assuming it goes into, and I bet this is where Robert Downey Jr.'s character comes into play. You know, he was accused of being kind of part of a communist.
A communist sympathizer.
Oppenheimer was?
Oppenheimer,
Yes.
yeah. Like
He was dragged in front of Congress.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think the second, or the third hour, whatever it is
Mm-hmm.
that. Because he was very much frowned upon and looked at as a communist for a long time. It wasn't until almost near his death that he kind of got, they were like, well, I guess he wasn't a communist after all.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I don't know much about that story except that he made the bomb.
There's a really good book about
And Einstein's
him.
in it, too.
Yeah, Einstein's a few
I can't
parts.
remember the role he played if he said don't do it.
They were friends.
Yeah, they were friends, but I don't remember what kind of... I haven't seen the movie. I have to look at the movie. I don't know if he gave him advice and said don't do it, Robert.
Well, because a TikTok trend became, for whatever reason, when you would see the preview of Oppenheimer would play, and when Einstein came on screen for no reason at all, people would be like, yeah! Almost like
That's my boy.
they were giving him like a superhero treatment. Like, when you're watching a trailer for a Marvel movie and your favorite Marvel character comes on and people are like, yeah!
It was Einstein.
Yeah, so when you see the Oppenheimer preview, there's a scene where
There he
Einstein's
is.
by a lake and his hat blows off, and people are like, Einstein! It's kids like
That
your
boy
son's age.
good.
That's what we do, isn't it? Yeah. So.
Did you guys get this email? I can't remember if you did, from Pecan Man
No.
about Oppenheimer and the Barbie movie. You know, those two movies will almost always be intertwined,
Right.
in the pop consciousness. Pecan Man says, "Did you hear about the Oppenheimer Barbie? It's a taller Ken doll with a cigarette and a red button, but he's got the balls to use it."
Oh.
All right.
That's Pecan Man.
That's pretty good,
That's
Pecan Man.
right there for you, isn't it?
Yeah.
What was somebody else telling me about Oppen? Oh, that the Japanese are not happy of how lightly we treated Barbenheimer, to put them together. Because they treat this movie as such a, we bombed Japan, of course. So it's so serious.
I never thought of their interest level in it.
Well, it's so serious to them.
Well, I think there were some lighthearted
Yeah.
promotions for seeing both.
Online, of course.
With the atomic
Wow.
mushroom cloud.
It was Barbenheimer, with the atomic mushroom cloud behind Barbie, and they're like, you're not taking this seriously enough.
I wonder what their take is on the movie itself.
It'd be interesting to know. I don't know what people think
I
of
mean,
it.
it's big medicine
Yeah.
over there.
But they don't show. I don't know. I haven't seen the movie either. No one in the room has. I don't know that I think they only show the test bomb, though, right? They don't do
Yeah, in Los Alamos.
Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
No, they don't. It's out in Los Alamos only, is what they show. Patrick, you're talking about Oppenheimer. Go ahead.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, thank you.
Good. So I just wanted to add something. Y'all might know about it already, but with Oppenheimer, obviously, yeah, he was blackballed. I mean, from that community for a long time, with the Soviet and the communist speak. But it was well known, I guess. It really reinforced that fact because they had Soviet spies all up in the Manhattan Project to the point where when they did the Tehran conference with FDR and Churchill and Stalin, FDR was telling them basically, hey, look, I got something pretty big, this, that, and third. And Stalin already knew about that.
Really?
Stalin, yeah, he had his spies. He already knew about this Manhattan Project and what they had going on before FDR was even going to let him know.
I didn't know that.
Well, remember, we were trying to beat the Germans to the bomb.
The Germans were working
The
on it,
Russians
too.
were our allies in World War II.
Correct. That's right. The Russians were the allies at the time. I don't know enough
It's
about
a complicated story.
it. Is. Have you seen the movie?
I had not. No, I want to.
I do too. I'm interested in it, but what I hear is it's really good, but it's too long.
Yeah, the government had no faith in anyone at Los Alamos. They bugged his house, Oppenheimer. And his wife was also blackballed and put in that whole hearing of communism. And
you now have
not just
your-
him, it was him and his wife.
And didn't they, at the very least, after he made the bomb, they're like, okay, we're done with you now. And he just,
I don't
they
know
had
how
no
he
they
ended.
had no
I don't know if
use
he
for him.
ended destitute at the end of his life. I don't know.
I really need to watch the movie or read the book.
We
but-
need to go. I don't know if it goes into his post.
A lot of people say, too, that,
Life.
with the interest in the movie, there was a really good documentary about Oppenheimer. Can't remember the title, but that might be worth seeking out, too, if you really want to learn the history.
Steve, you're talking about Oppenheimer and the Einstein connection to the movie. Go ahead.
Hey guys, P1, big fan.
Thank you.
Albert Einstein only has like maybe 3 or 4 scenes, but every time he comes on the screen, he's almost in like a different movie. He's very slapstick and physical comedy. Like he loses his hat like 3 or 4 times, and it's like they make him kind of thing in the movie.
That's my boy, Einstein.
Kind of like Tim Conway, the old shuffling old man.
Yeah, what a surprise.
Yeah.
Weird.
I think I've designed a giant bomb. Really?
Did you
Don't press that button.
Brilliant but clumsy.
did you like it, Steve? You like the movie?
Oh yeah, I love the movie. I've seen it 3 times in IMAX. It's really good. It's the best of the year. One of them at least.
Oh, okay. Wow. Is the criticism it's too long fair?
I mean, yeah, the first 2 hours are pretty good, and then the last hour kind of drags. But I mean, if you like Sorkin movies, like maybe Social Network, A Few Good Men, like the last hour is very courtroom drama. It's pretty cool.
Well, I do like that. I love
You
those.
do love those.
I do like
You
that.
do.
Thank you, Steve.
I was offended because I saw a thing online saying if you complain about movie length, that movie is not meant for you.
Oh, don't you
Intellectually.
dare. Don't you
Oh, I
dare.
hate it too. I'm with you. I like a solid hour and a half movie.
Y'all are
But
y'all like
yeah.
baby birds vomit into our mouths.
Yes, vomit into my mouth.
Yeah.
Vomit into my
It's
mouth.
like
for the
maybe this-
Titanic.
yeah.
Well, the
Oh,
Titanic.
you can't sit still for 3 hours? Then this movie isn't meant for
I
you.
can sit still for 3 hours. Doesn't mean I have to. Focus and edit is what I would say. I would say almost every movie, everyone, could be 5 to 10% shorter. How about that?
Titanic.
Ooh, there's not much. I don't know. Titanic.
No fat.
No fat on Titanic. You think so? I've studied Titanic, and
I mean, they cut scenes.
I know they did
it
a
was
lot.
going to be longer.
They cut a lot of scenes. I think every scene is fairly necessary.
I think they wanted to put an intermission in it at one time.
They did. There was an intermission.
Yeah.
There
was an
Yes,
intermission.
there was.
I don't know if I watched it with intermission.
I had this debate with Ricky up in sales the other day. He was talking about Oppenheimer.
You debated with him?
God, not really. I just thought it. You know how I'm the 2-hump grump in that meeting anyway.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And we were talking. The meeting was over, and he was talking about Oppenheimer. And he said, "I think any movie that's over 2.5 hours should have an intermission." And I thought, you said small. I just thought that's so stupid. I don't like intermissions, period. I mean,
Yeah, you lose the flow.
You lose the flow, exactly. And if it just makes it longer. I don't need to stand up and stretch.
15 minutes?
15 minutes? That's great. You totally lose the momentum of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So I would never put an intermission in a movie unless it was like 6 hours long.
Yeah.
I mean, so when he said that, I was like, that's when I had that thought about him. Like, he's not meant
You
for
think that's the longest movie you've ever watched? Titanic?
The Titanic?
10 Commandments was long.
I haven't seen it.
God, I haven't seen that since I was a child.
What's Titanic? 3.5?
I don't know. It's got to be
It's
at
a little
least
over 3. It's a bit over 3.
3:15.
I think I've seen a couple that were 3. Titanic's the only movie I believe I've seen in the theater that had an intermission, but ours did. When I saw it, it had
Scarface had an intermission
that's
with
right.
Pacino.
Yes.
And
But
there's-
isn't that the truth of a good movie? Is that if it can hold you that long,
Yes.
and it is that long, and it keeps you captivated, that's a great movie.
Oh, I agree. I
But
don't
if
have
it
any
starts
problem.
dragging at the end, then you're like,
Right. I'm afraid of that with
take away
Oppenheimer.
star.
I felt like Oppenheimer would end with the bomb. It does not. It's another hour after that.
All right.
Michelle from Japan talking about what their thoughts are of the movie over there. Go ahead.
Yeah. Before I mention that, I wanted to say that I think one movie that is about 3 hours long, maybe a little bit more, does really hold your attention is JFK.
Oh, yes.
That one really did hold my attention.
I agree.
But as for Japan, so I want to be careful here because people will think I'm, making some sort of racial statement because I'm not. But basically, these kinds of outrage scenarios about issues like this are typically made by Japanese Americans, not by actual Japanese people in Japan, because in Japan, people's attitudes for these kinds of things are very like, don't care, don't worry about it. Gee, that was sad that happened, but we're not thinking about it now, and that kind of thing. And so the populace here really doesn't, this is not even on their radar right now. So, and that's not to say that the Japanese Americans are wrong for complaining about certain things, because there definitely are some real issues that need to be discussed. But it's a real weird divide when you have people who are Japanese Americans who are used to standing up and fighting back when there's injustices, and then people in Japan that just don't really.
Interesting. Okay. Well, you live in Japan. That's a very interesting take on that. I bet that's right. I bet it's a lot of Japanese Americans who are saying, because they probably saw a ton of that, when the movie was coming out. It's such a big deal here.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Thank you very much, Michelle. Appreciate the phone call as always. Our listener farthest away is Michelle. Joel is on and has an Oppenheimer factoid. Joel, go ahead.
Yeah, hey, I was just going to note that when the United States decided to use the atomic bomb to end the war against Japan, a second motive was to also demonstrate to the Soviet Union what kind of military prowess we had. I think a lot of people don't notice that, and it really kind of led to the arms race that I characterized the Cold War in the 80s.
Very interesting. That's probably true, because it was soon after that, I guess, we became, instead of allies with the Soviet Union, we became enemies.
Right.
And the Cold War, of course, lasted. That's interesting. Thanks, Joel.
Well, FDR wanted to drag Russia and Stalin into the war with Japan. They were not in on that.
No, right.
And then Yalta, FDR tried to get him to say, look, we need help over here.
Well.
And they denied. So
took us a bit of time to get in there too, right? I mean, we didn't get in until Pearl Harbor,
right?
Which many people said we should have been involved in the European part of the war as well before we were, right? FDR. Clay, you're talking about Oppenheimer, also. Go ahead.
Yes, Clay. I'm a P1 and listen all the time. And my professor in College of Physics was Dr. Siegenthaler, who worked for Oppenheimer and was there at the blast. The first blast they did in White Sands. But at one time he told us that he accidentally dropped a ball of plutonium. And it's safe to do that unless it shatters or makes dust. And Oppenheimer was there. Luckily it didn't make any dust or they both have been poisoned.
Holy cow. I accidentally dropped a bowl of plutonium. I apologize.
Were you having it for breakfast?
Boy, you got to really handle that with kids.
Do we need the dustbin? Don't bother.
No.
Yeah. Wow. What a story.
Kelly drove around with an apple on his car.
I did all day yesterday.
And it didn't break.
2 days in a row.
On your car?
When I got out of my car early.
It's not the same thing.
No, it's not plutonium.
Early on. I'll tell it in a minute.
Okay.
Let's get Heather, and then I'll tell you what happened.
All right.
You're talking about long movies, Heather. Go ahead.
Yes, hey guys. So I'm obsessed with the Titanic movie. Like, it's my favorite. I have it tattooed on me. And so I researched like everything about it. And James Cameron, when he was making his first rough edit, the first rough edit was over 24 hours long.
Wow,
son.
Wow. Now I'd have gone to see it. I'd have been there with you seeing it, sister.
Bring a blanket.
Whoa, 24 hours. Well, they did some good. I think every scene is necessary in Titanic.
It was just 21 hours of Kate Winslet having sex.
Sitting on the couch,
Leo.
being drawn.
Where else can we have sex in this boat?
Thank you, Heather. Appreciate it.